What the rancher did to the girl in the sheriff's yard shocked the whole region. Red Hollow was a small and dusty town in the old western land, where the wind always carried sand, and secrets never stayed hidden for long. Wooden houses stood close together, and the streets were made of dry dirt that turned into dust clouds whenever horses passed by. People in Red Hollow lived simple lives, but they were always ready to talk about anything new that happened. On one calm evening, when the sun was going down behind the hills, something strange broke the peace of the town. A young girl named Lena Carter suddenly ran into the sheriff's yard. She looked scared and tired. Her face was pale, and her clothes were covered in dust. Her hair was messy, as if she had been running for a long time. She stopped near the sheriff's office door, breathing heavily, and then she fell to her knees. The sheriff, Bill Hargrove, quickly came out when he heard the noise. He had seen many things in his life, but the fear in Lena's eyes made him serious right away. Lena pointed in the direction of the hills outside the town. Her voice was shaking as she spoke. She said that a rancher had done something terrible to her near his land. The name she gave was Cole Maddox, one of the most well-known ranchers in the region. As soon as those words came out of her mouth, everything changed. People nearby heard her shouting, and within minutes, the news started spreading across Red Hollow. A few townspeople gathered outside the sheriff's yard. Some were shocked, some were angry, and some were confused. Cole Maddox was not just any man. He was known as a hard-working rancher who kept to himself and rarely caused trouble. Sheriff Hargrove did not waste time. He asked Lena to calm down and brought her inside the office. He offered her water and tried to understand what had happened, but Lena was too scared and emotional. Her words came out in broken sentences. She kept repeating that Cole had been near her and that she had run away from him. The sheriff knew he had to act carefully. He sent 2 deputies to bring Cole Maddox in for questioning. Cole was found at his ranch, fixing a broken fence under the fading evening light. When the deputies arrived, he was surprised but did not resist. He calmly agreed to go with them, even though he did not understand what was happening. By the time Cole reached the sheriff's office, the atmosphere in town had already changed. People stood outside in groups, whispering and staring. Some looked at Cole with anger, while others looked confused and unsure. Inside the office, Sheriff Hargrove sat behind his desk. Lena was sitting in the corner, still shaking. Cole stood in front of the sheriff, his hat in his hand, his face calm but serious. The sheriff asked him simple questions first: where he had been, what he was doing, and if he had seen Lena. Cole answered everything clearly. He said he had been working at his ranch the whole day and had not met Lena at all. But Lena, when asked again, pointed at Cole and said he was the one she saw near her. Her voice was weak, but her fear made her words sound strong. Cole looked at her with confusion. He said he had never harmed anyone in his life and did not understand why she was saying this. Outside, the tension in Red Hollow began to grow. People started choosing sides even before the truth was known. Some believed Lena because she looked frightened and honest. Others believed Cole because they had known him for years. Sheriff Hargrove felt the weight of the situation. One wrong decision could tear the town apart. He decided that Cole would be held temporarily until more facts were clear. As the night deepened, the sheriff's office became the center of attention in Red Hollow. Cole sat quietly in the holding room, thinking about how quickly life had changed. Lena stayed under observation, still afraid and confused. And outside, under the dark sky, the town waited, waiting for answers that no one had yet found. The quiet town of Red Hollow was no longer peaceful. Something had begun that would change everything. The night in Red Hollow did not bring peace. Instead, it brought tension that spread through every street and every house. The wind blew harder than usual, and it felt like even nature was reacting to the trouble that had entered the town. Inside the sheriff's office, Cole Maddox was kept in a small holding room. The wooden walls were old, and the only light came from a hanging lamp outside the barred door. Cole sat on a simple wooden bench, his hat placed beside him. He was not angry, he was not shouting, he was just silent, thinking deeply about what had happened. He kept asking himself the same question again and again. How could someone accuse him of something he never did? Outside, the situation was completely different. By morning, Red Hollow had already turned into a town full of whispers and judgment. People stood in groups near the general store, the saloon, and even the church steps, talking about Cole Maddox and the young girl, Lena Carter. News in Red Hollow always traveled fast, but this time it spread like fire in dry grass. Every person had an opinion, and most of those opinions were strong. Some said Cole was innocent. They remembered how he always helped neighbors, fixed fences for old farmers, and never caused trouble in town. Others believed Lena, saying a young girl would not accuse someone without reason, but fear and confusion were growing faster than truth. Sheriff Bill Hargrove had not slept all night. He sat at his desk, going through every detail again and again. Lena's story was emotional, but it did not fully connect. She kept repeating parts of it, but the details were unclear. Sometimes she would stop speaking suddenly, as if she was afraid to remember everything. Cole's answers were different. He was calm and clear. He repeated that he had been working alone at his ranch the entire day. The sheriff knew something was missing. But in a town like Red Hollow, pressure from people was powerful. By midday, angry voices started gathering outside the sheriff's office. Some townspeople demanded punishment. They said Cole should not be allowed to stay free if there was even a small chance he was guilty. A few even said the law was too slow. Sheriff Hargrove stepped outside to calm them down. He raised his hand and told everyone to stay patient. He reminded them that justice was not about emotions, but about truth. But not everyone listened. Among the crowd, voices grew louder. Inside, Cole heard the noise through the wooden walls. He could not see the people, but he could feel their anger. For the first time, he realized that even if he was innocent, the town was starting to believe otherwise. Later that day, something strange made the situation even worse. A deputy brought in an item found near the river path outside town, a torn piece of cloth. Lena identified it as part of her shawl. The cloth looked fresh, and it made people even more convinced that something had happened between Lena and Cole. But Cole immediately denied it. He said he had never touched her shawl and had never been near that river path. Still, doubts grew stronger. Sheriff Hargrove examined the cloth carefully. Something about it felt strange to him. It did not clearly prove anything, but it was enough to make people angry. That evening, Cole's horse was found near the edge of town, wandering alone. It was sweaty and tired, as if it had been running. The saddle was still on it, and another small detail shocked everyone. A broken locket was tied loosely to the saddle strap. The locket belonged to Lena. Now the situation became even more complicated. The town was fully divided. Some people were ready to punish Cole immediately. Others still believed there was more to the story. Sheriff Hargrove felt pressure from all sides. He was responsible for finding truth, but the town wanted quick answers, not careful investigation. Cole remained in the holding room, still calm on the outside, but clearly stressed inside. He kept thinking about the broken locket and how it got there. He knew something was wrong, but he could not explain it yet. Lena, meanwhile, was staying in a small room under supervision. She was quiet most of the time, but when she spoke, her voice carried fear and confusion. She was not acting like someone who was lying. She was acting like someone who believed her own fear, and that was what made everything more complicated. As the sun set again over Red Hollow, the town was no longer just curious. It was divided, emotional, and restless. The truth was still hidden, and both sides were waiting for answers. But Sheriff Hargrove understood one thing clearly now. This case was not simple at all, and what would happen next could change Red Hollow forever. The third day in Red Hollow started with a strange silence. The wind was still there, but it felt softer, like even the town was waiting for something important to happen. The streets were less crowded than before, but the tension had not gone away. Instead, it had grown deeper inside people's minds. Inside the sheriff's office, Sheriff Bill Hargrove was still trying to connect the missing pieces of the case. He had not slept properly for 2 nights. His eyes were tired, but his mind was active. He knew one thing clearly now. This case was not as simple as people believed. In the holding room, Cole Maddox remained calm on the outside, but inside, he was restless. He kept replaying every detail in his mind. The broken locket, the torn cloth, the confusion in Lena's words. None of it made full sense. He felt like someone had placed him in a story that did not belong to him. Sheriff Hargrove decided it was time to look beyond the town. He called a young deputy named Evan Reed, known for being careful and observant. Evan was not emotional like others. He believed in facts, not rumors. The sheriff gave him one clear instruction: go to the ranch area, where Lena said everything happened, and look for anything unusual. Evan left early in the morning on horseback. The ride from Red Hollow to Cole's ranch was long and quiet. The land around the town was wide and open, with dry grass fields and rocky paths. As Evan moved farther away, the feeling of town pressure slowly disappeared, replaced by focus and observation. When Evan reached the ranch area, he carefully studied the ground. At first, everything looked normal: fences, open fields, and cattle grazing in the distance. But Evan did not stop there. He moved slowly, checking every detail. Near a small slope of land, he noticed something strange: marks on the ground. Not just one set of footprints, but multiple directions. Some prints looked like they were running away, not toward the ranch. This was the first detail that did not match Lena's story. Evan followed the marks carefully. After a short distance, he found broken dry grass and disturbed soil, as if someone had struggled or quickly moved through the area. But what caught his attention most was not violence. It was direction. The sign showed movement away from Cole's ranch, not toward it. Evan continued searching and reached a small cluster of rocks near a dry stream path. There, partially hidden under dirt, he found a small broken object. He cleaned it carefully and realized it was part of a locket. It looked similar to the one found earlier on Cole's horse, but something was different. This piece had fresh scratches, as if it had been dropped recently, not days ago. Evan's curiosity grew stronger. He followed the stream path further and discovered something unexpected: faint wagon tracks. They were not deep like heavy transport tracks. They looked light, as if made by a fast-moving small wagon or cart. This detail did not fit Cole's story at all. He never used a wagon near that area. Evan decided to follow the tracks. After nearly an hour of riding, he reached a small hidden campsite near the hills. It was not a permanent camp, just a temporary stop used by travelers. There were signs of recent activity, ashes from a fire, half-burned wood, and footprints. And then, Evan found something important. A man was sitting near the edge of the camp, trying to fix a torn bag. He looked like a traveler, not a local. When Evan approached, the man became nervous. Evan introduced himself and asked simple questions. At first, the man tried to avoid answering, but when Evan mentioned Red Hollow and the sheriff, the man's behavior changed. He looked around, as if checking whether someone was listening. After a long pause, the man finally spoke. He said he had passed near the ranch area on the same night everything happened. He claimed he saw a girl running through the field, clearly frightened. But what shocked Evan was what came next. The man said Cole Maddox was not chasing her. Instead, Cole appeared later, as if he was trying to help or follow a situation already in motion. The man also mentioned something else. Someone else was in the area that night. A third person, moving quickly near the hills, but not clearly visible. This detail changed everything Evan had believed so far. He asked more questions, but the man refused to say anything more. He quickly packed his things and prepared to leave the camp, as if afraid of being involved. Evan did not stop him. Instead, he carefully noted everything and immediately started his return to Red Hollow. The ride back felt different. The same land now seemed heavier, as if carrying hidden truth under its surface. By the time Evan reached the sheriff's office, the sun was already lowering in the sky. He entered quickly and asked to speak to Sheriff Hargrove alone. Inside the office, Evan explained everything he had seen: the footprints, the wagon tracks, the broken locket piece, and the traveler's statement. Sheriff Hargrove listened without interruption. His expression slowly changed as the details came together. For the first time since the case began, he felt something new, not confusion, but direction. And outside the office, Red Hollow still believed it had the truth. But inside, the truth was only beginning to reveal itself. The final day of the investigation began with heavy silence over Red Hollow. The sky looked dull, and the wind moved slowly through the empty streets. People were still talking about the case, but now their voices were less certain. Doubt had started to grow in the town, like a shadow that could not be ignored. Inside the sheriff's office, Sheriff Bill Hargrove sat with Deputy Evan Reed, going over everything once again. The new information had changed the direction of the case. What once looked simple was now full of hidden layers. Cole Maddox was still in the holding room, but something had changed in his behavior. He was still calm, but now there was a quiet confidence in him. It was not anger or pride. It was the feeling of someone who believed truth would eventually come out. Sheriff Hargrove knew they needed to act fast. The pieces were finally coming together, but they still did not show the full picture. He decided to bring Lena Carter in once again, this time for a final and careful conversation. Lena arrived slowly, looking tired and scared. Her hands were shaking slightly, and her eyes avoided direct contact. She sat across from the sheriff, with Evan standing nearby. Sheriff Hargrove spoke gently. He told her that they were not here to blame her, but to understand everything clearly. He asked her to explain the night again, step by step. At first, Lena stayed silent. The room felt heavy with tension. Then, slowly, she started speaking. She said she had been walking near the edge of the hills when she heard movement behind her. She thought someone was following her. In fear, she started running. Her mind became confused, and she could not think clearly. She admitted that she saw a man in the distance but was not fully sure who it was. She assumed it was Cole Maddox because she knew he lived nearby. But then Evan gently showed her the broken piece of the locket found at the campsite. Lena looked at it closely. Her expression changed slightly. She said she remembered dropping her locket earlier that evening when she was running, but she did not remember how it ended up near Cole's horse. Sheriff Hargrove then explained what Evan had discovered: the wagon tracks, the hidden campsite, and the traveler's statement. Lena's eyes filled with confusion and fear. She was starting to realize that her memory of the night was incomplete and affected by panic. At that moment, Evan spoke carefully. He said that there might have been a third person involved, someone who moved quickly through the hills and may have caused the confusion. The sheriff immediately ordered a search based on the wagon tracks. Later that afternoon, deputies found the truth hidden in an abandoned storage hut near the hills. Inside, they discovered a traveling gambler's belongings. Everything matched the description given by the traveler Evan had met earlier. The gambler had already tried to leave the region, but this time, the sheriff's men caught him near the outskirts of Red Hollow. When questioned, the gambler first denied everything, But when the broken locket, wagon tracks, and witness statement were placed in front of him, his confidence slowly broke down. Finally, he confessed. He admitted that he had been near the hills that night. He had seen Lena alone and confused. He tried to approach her, and she ran in fear. In the chaos, Cole Maddox arrived at the scene, not to harm her, but because he heard shouting and came to help. The gambler said he took advantage of the confusion. He followed Lena from a distance and created fear so she would run deeper into the hills. He wanted to cause panic and avoid being noticed in the region. When Lena ran toward Cole's land, everything became mixed up. Cole found her in distress and tried to calm her down. But before he could explain anything, she ran again in fear, believing he was involved. The gambler even admitted he left small evidence behind near Cole's horse to shift suspicion onto him. The truth hit the sheriff's office like a heavy wave. Cole Maddox was innocent. When Cole was brought out of the holding room, the entire atmosphere changed. The tension that had built for days suddenly broke. He did not show anger toward anyone. He simply looked tired from everything that had happened. Lena, hearing the full truth, lowered her head in guilt and confusion. She had not lied with intention. She had reacted out of fear and misunderstanding. But her mistake had caused a serious situation in the town. Sheriff Hargrove officially released Cole Maddox and ordered the gambler's arrest. Outside, Red Hollow slowly learned the truth. People who had once judged Cole now felt ashamed. Some apologized, others stayed silent. Cole did not stay long in town after that. He mounted his horse and prepared to leave. Before riding away, he looked back at Red Hollow one last time. There was no anger in his eyes, only quiet acceptance. The sheriff stood outside and watched him go. He knew that justice had finally been done, but also understood something important. Fear and rumors could easily destroy truth if not handled carefully. As Cole Maddox disappeared into the wide-open land, Red Hollow returned to its slow and quiet life. But after that case, the town never forgot one lesson. Truth always exists, but it takes patience, courage, and time to find it.